Welcome to the Heart and Hustle podcast. We are your hosts, Lindsay Roman and Abbey McLeod. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of our show. Today, we have a treat for you, especially if you are a photographer that is wanting to get into the brand photography space. We had our girl, Abbey Jo, on the show, and let me just tell you, it was an incredible conversation. So first, if you don't know who Abbey is, let me give you a little breakdown. Abbey is a full-time brand and fashion photographer based in San Diego, California, and she started out as a wedding photographer where she spent 6 incredible years serving amazing couples for their engagements, weddings, and elopements. But in 2022, Abbey decided to completely make the switch to brand and product photography. And since then, she has had the privilege of working with many different companies by providing them lifestyle and editorial campaigns. And since starting her brand photography journey, Abbey has worked with clients such as Cozy Earth, Sackcloth and Ashes, The Salty Gem, Kosha Fit, Our Spare Change, Booby Superfoods, and Long Weekend. Abbey is incredible, and we cannot wait for you to hear this conversation.
Yes. So if you didn't realize, this is actually our first podcast episode that we have ever done on specifically brand photography. So Abbey is absolutely coming in to drop the fire. We cover everything from what made her make the pivot, what does she love about brand photography, things like how do you pitch yourself to a brand, how do you stand out, what does it logistically look like on a brand shoot, does she work with models or not, does she, pitch herself?
Who pays for the models?
Who pays for the models?
How does that work?
How do you find the models? Reach out to people. How do you get noticed by other brands? How do you logistically go about writing a really good pitch email? She talks about her attraction method that works really well for her to get into brands, line of sight. There is so much that Abbey delivers today. Let me tell you, whether you are a brand photographer actively right now, you are considering it in the future, or you just want to hear about standing out, getting in front of your ideal client and customer, and delivering a really good experience, trust me, you want to listen to this. Also, we kind of cover some fun stuff of how Abbey and I personally got connected. It's a
great story.
It's a little juicy and just amazing, raving about her work, pulling up the Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, we will talk about that in today's episode and show some of her images. But Abbey is an amazing guest and photographer, and we cannot wait for you to dive into this episode. So without further ado, let's get Abbey onto the show.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Roman.
And I'm Abbey McLeod, and we are family and legacy-focused serial entrepreneurs and the founders of the Heart University, a business education company with a mission to help you thrive in your business and life.
Welcome to our Entrepreneur Cocktail Hour, where business and marketing strategies meet faith, real talk, and raw and life-changing conversations.
At the end of the day, we are all in this together, figuring out how to navigate the ups and downs, the messy and the beautiful, and everything in between. This is a community where you can come as you are, get inspired, and walk away equipped to build a legacy-filled life.
You're listening to the Heart and Hustle podcast. Abbey, welcome to the Heart and Hustle podcast. We are so excited to have you on, and this chat is going to be so good and a first for the Heart and Hustle podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are the best.
Man. Absolutely.
It's so fun having you on. And you're such a delight. And I know our audience, if they don't already follow you and love you, are just going to flip out for you. So
this is so nice. Wow. Thank you.
It's so sweet to have you on.
I just have to say, you guys are just my favorite. And this is such a full circle moment for me because when I first started my business, in college back in 2017, you guys were the first people I followed on Instagram as photography influencers for me, where I looked up to you, and it's just so full circle to be here and chatting with you guys on your podcast. You guys have always inspired me and how I do business and just all that stuff. So thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh,
Thank
Abbey,
you for saying that. Also, okay, guys, I have to tell you, she said this before we started recording. And I was like, and I had an ego boost, and I was like, can you say this when we hit record?
And Abbey just flowed with it, and then Lindsay outed herself and her narcissism.
I was like, I just have to, you were so sweet to just flow into that as if that wasn't me being like, can you please say it again for my freaking ego?
I do it for you, girl. I do it for you.
I love it so much. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's important. You want to know that.
Well,
very important.
genuinely, we love you.
I also want to like tag on there and kind of like bust. What am I trying to say? Build you up. That's the word. Build you up a bit too, because you and I connected a few years ago.
Well, because aren't you in San Diego? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And that's a whole nother story of like how I ended up following you, which I think I told you. I followed her.
I don't know the story.
I followed her on accident thinking she was someone else.
Yeah. But I literally had a heart attack when I saw it. I was like, what?
Wait. Back up. So you followed her. Did you like send a DM being like, oh my gosh, thank you so much?
No. Wait, did I?
I don't think so.
No, you had started responding to my stories. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, she knows who I am and she's talking to me. That's so cool.
Wait, but when did you realize that it wasn't the person that you thought it was?
I think it was pretty quickly after I had followed her. Because then I like realized it was the wrong Abbey with like the unique spelling of like Abbey. And then I was like, wait, but this girl is actually really cool and her work is absolutely beautiful. So I was like not sad with the follow.
You're good enough now that you can say that.
What, her and I?
Yeah, that I followed you accidentally.
Oh yeah, well, because we kind of became friends, and then she shot like an Abbey swim picnic for me.
Yes,
and then we hung out, and then like I did a shoot with her and her husband Zach, and so like
Wait, were you the ones with the bandana?
Yes. Yep. She's like, with the flower in her ear.
Yes,
like
that was a moment. That was a moment.
Those are some of my favorite pictures I have of us, like, ever. Like,
I didn't know that.
I'm so obsessed. You don't even know.
Oh my gosh. I love you guys. That was such a fun shoot. So anyways, we're friends. We I think we got like coffee or breakfast or something. You came up to Ventura and we like hung out.
Yeah, we did just a hangout day.
And we like biked around on like the e-bikes and everything. And that's where I like actually told you, because we'd been like friends and online friends for a while.
You have to cross a barrier of friendship to be able to say that and have the
like not have her be offended.
Yes.
Because
but not everybody could take that and handle it like with great, which so like kudos to you for having a cool personality.
It speaks to your character.
I'm just like, there's a reason for everything. It's just God.
100%. I love it. I got very off track. My point was you're an incredible brand photographer and I accidentally followed you, but realistically I stuck around before we became friends because I was like, dang, this girl's work is absolutely mind-blowingly good.
That's amazing.
And then we became friends and then I hired you to shoot Abbey Swim and like we just became buddies and you're just absolute gem and I adore you. So
let's get into it.
Let's get in for maybe those who are like, okay, Evie's introduction was a little chaotic and not very informative as to who Abbey actually is, other than an accidental follow for Evie that turned into a great situation. Anyways, Abbey, would you be willing? Would you be willing to share a little bit of your story, who you are, all the things, and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, totally. So, hi guys. My name is Abbey. People will call me Abbey Joe. My business name is Abbey Joe Photos. But I was born and raised in California, so I'm a California native. Was born and raised in Northern California in like the Sacramento area. And my whole life, I pretty much, knew I was going to be a photographer. So it's just classic origin story of just like picked up a camera, in 8th grade and never put it down. So it's funny though. It's like, I was literally talking to Zach about this last night. I was like, I cannot believe that like little me in like 8th grade was like taking horrible photos and people actually told me to pursue it. Like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like color splashing things, with like the black and white and then like the balloons are in color.
Selective color was...
Like, what is life? Like, I literally was like, how did I get here?
Oh my God.
How 2010 of us to do the selective color.
Yes,
100%. Right? Yes. So, I always did that stuff. And like in high school, I took every photography class that was available and was a photographer for the yearbook 1 year and was just like obsessed with all that. And like, I went to college. So that was like a very, like, I don't know. It's this whole conversation of like, in the photography world, you don't really need to go to college. But at that time, like, there really wasn't the option to not go to college yet. So I was like, I'll get my degree in photography. And I actually did, like, going into college, I was like, I would love to work for like National Geographic or like GoPro. Like, I was obsessed with GoPro. I wanted to work for GoPro. It was just such a random time. But looking back on it now, it's hilarious because I'm like, why would I ever work for National Geographic? I did not take pictures of birds. Like, I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, so I went to college, and like in college, I was like doing photography and, picked up gigs with other students who were like getting engaged, getting married, people who needed grad photos. And then I actually had some friends who were older than me that were doing like brand photography, actually. So they were doing brand shoots. I don't know if you guys have heard of the company Fight the New Drug.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So we got to do a shoot for them, and I got to actually shoot some content for them, and they like posted it and used it. And that was like the first time where I was like, oh, like brand photography is so freaking cool. And that was in like 2017, 2018, I think. That might have been 2018. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like I know I like this, like that was like the first time where I was like, wow, that's really cool. So then I kind of had that in the back of my mind for a while. That was like, I would really love to do this one day. Like I would love for this to be like my full-time thing. But then, heading to the end of college and graduation, I was like, okay, well, I've already got a bunch of wedding clients now. I'm starting to get more. And I was like, well, this is probably going to be the easiest thing for me to do right now. Because at that time, you couldn't just like pitch to a brand over Instagram. Like it wasn't that simple. And you kind of had to know somebody like to get into brand photography at that time. So I was just kind of like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to, go full blast on weddings because that's what I'm already doing. And just, build my business and just see where that takes me. And so that's, I guess, my photography testimony, I guess you could say.
I love it.
Who I am, where I've come from with it, and what I've done so far. And so I did weddings for 6 years and did, weddings, elopements, couples, all that stuff. And then in 2022, in 2022, the very beginning of 2022, I decided, okay, I think I'm done with weddings and I want to pivot and go full-time in brands. So
that's amazing. Wait, so you did weddings for 6 years before switching to brand photography?
Yes.
What was the reason in 2022 that made you fully do the switch, and why didn't you do it earlier?
So I kind of always told myself, I know weddings aren't long-term for me. I just knew like it would be, I would just stop whenever I got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel fulfilled. I feel content with leaving this behind. Like I feel I have peace not doing this ever again. And I knew that I would get to that point at some point. I just didn't know when it would be. So I wasn't sure. I was like, it could be after 5 years. It could be after 10 years. Like, I don't really know. And I think it also, too, is like, if I get more opportunities to do something else, I'll probably consider it and like think about doing that. And so when I moved to San Diego, that was a big turning point for me. So my husband and I moved to San Diego in 2021, the fall of 2021. And that was like the starting point for me of like, okay, like there is so much down here compared to where I'm from. Like, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing today if I was still living in Northern California, simply because there's so much more opportunity here in Southern California and San Diego. It's such a destination location. There are a lot of brands that love to shoot here. And LA's not far away and things like that. So once I started getting more opportunities to shoot for brands, which kind of came up a little bit more naturally, I started to kind of test it out. And then I was like, oh, dang, like this is awesome. And then I went to a content day that was like centered around brands. And then that was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, this is what I'm doing. I feel ready for this. Because I was already getting burnt out on weddings. That was the big thing. It was like, I was starting to feel not only like the physical toll, but like the mental toll and just like all the pressure just kept, I feel like the pressure has not stopped with weddings. Like it's, people just, their expectations are just only increasing. So I was just kind of like getting to the point where I was like, okay, I feel kind of done and I feel ready to try something that's a little bit more low pressure, a little more creative freedom. Because I love that brands, the creative freedom is much more expansive because each client is different and each shoot is different. And so I get to do a lot of different stuff all the time, which really I love and enjoy. And so I kind of felt like a full circle in that sense where I was like, okay, I started out really wanting to do that and hoping that one day I could, and then kind of, bam, moved down to San Diego and then started getting opportunities and was like, whoa, okay, yep. I'm going to try to do this.
That's awesome. If anybody's listening to this and maybe they're in a similar boat where they're a current wedding photographer or any kind of photographer, could you explain, you said it a little bit there at the end of just like the creative freedom that shooting for brands gave you that maybe weddings or something else maybe didn't. I want you to describe that feeling of like what made you be like, oh, brand photography was it for me, in case anybody else out there is listening and they're like, I've thought maybe weddings just don't do it for me. Like maybe they just need that light bulb moment of hearing you like specifically say like, what is it about brands that lights you up?
For me, I absolutely love being given like a vision for something and bringing it to life. So that is like bringing something from point A to point B. That has always been a passion of mine, just even in random things in life. But like I've realized that like being given a mood board, a vision board, a goal, and then executing that and then giving it to the client and then being extremely satisfied with that, it's like fire in my soul. It's so exciting to me. And so I think that's one of the biggest parts of it that really lights me up is like being given a task and a goal creatively and then being able to bring that to life and doing that successfully for a client is like, I could do that all day, every day. Like it really does truly excite me. So I feel like that's what really gets me going when it comes to brand photography. Like it's not just like the fun, creative side that mixes it up every now and then. It's like being given like that task and those, I think also too, just being given an expectation that I know I can accomplish is exciting for me too. And I think that also comes from just struggling in school growing up. Like I struggled so much in school. Like I failed 2 math classes. Like I had a hard time. And once I went to college and was starting to study the things that I'm good at and the things that I love, I started getting really good grades. And I was like, wow, like that actually feels really good. Like, wow, I can do this. And now doing that now in my career, it's like, okay, like this is something I know I'm good at. This is something I know I can do. And being given that task and being able to accomplish that and bring it to completion is like so satisfying to me. So that's I think
so
why
good.
I love it.
I just have to jump in here again because you are so good and talented at what you do. And like anyone listening to this episode right now, if you are not driving and if you can do this safely, I need you to go and
I'll do it with you. I'll do it with you for all the YouTubes that are watching. That didn't make any sense. But
Abby's work and her Instagram at Abbey Jo Photos.
Abby with an EY.
EYJO
like
Photos. And I need you to like, it is jaw-droppingly, like the emotion and the story that she can tell in her work is absolutely magical. So
I have
a follow-up question just looking at your feed. What do you specify? No, that's not the word. Do you specialize? There we go. In a specific type of brand? Like do you mostly do personal brands or do you do like product shops or a little bit of both? Do you do like corporate, like realtors? Like where is your like niche?
That's a great question. I kind of do whatever comes my way.
Okay.
Right now, at least right now. Right now I'm in the season where I'm just kind of saying yes to everything. But
where Lindsay's showing photos to the camera. So if you're on YouTube watching this.
So sweet. Lindsay's face. I'm dead.
Okay.
So I kind of I prefer certain things. But I do take on clients in all sorts of categories. So I will take on like business owners. I'll do business branding for people. I've done lots of shoots for people who do podcasts. So like they need a new podcast cover, or I've done even like shoots for musicians who need like an EP cover or an album cover or something, or things like that, like, or just business branding in general. I do it for other photographers. I do it for, designers and creative agencies and things like that. So I've done a lot of those types of branding shoots, but mostly my focus is on like fashion and product. So that's something that I try to put out into the world the most, so that I can keep attracting those clients. So that's kind of what I would say.
You were so good at it.
I followed you, but I even like, maybe I just liked it now. I don't know if I liked this in the past or just now.
You're like seeing it with fresh eyes?
Yeah, I'm seeing it like hold on. Wait, where is it? This one. Stop it. Can you see this?
Gosh, thank you.
So good.
I'm just, if you're listening to this and not watching it, my jaw is on the ground.
You're so sweet.
So clearly, you are so talented at what you do and you're amazing. So I kind of want to get into, we've talked about a little of your backstory, getting into brands, why you love brands, all of that. Can we get into a little of the nitty gritty of like, if anyone out there is a brand photographer or is considering it or, whatnot, I want to know, I feel like one of the number one questions is going to be around pitching. So can you answer for us? Do you pitch yourself to brands? Do brands pitch themselves to you? And maybe then we'll go into a little bit of like the logistics of like, how do you write a good pitch or like all of that?
Well, also pitching, but then also, is there any circumstance like other types of photography where businesses or brands come to you like a wedding client would, like inquire.
Well, that's what I said. Do they pitch themselves to you?
Oh, but I guess when you said pitch, like I don't consider like a bride and groom pitching to me. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know what you meant. Yeah.
Okay, we're tracking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's definitely both. So I have pitched myself many, many times to brands. And that is, I think, the one thing right now that I am really, truly trying to navigate is how to land a pitch and like turn a pitch into a real client. That truly is the hardest part of the job. Aside from negotiating, pitching and negotiating, the two top difficult, very, very, very difficult parts of this job. But I have found for me personally, as I know there are a lot of people where pitching works so well for them, but for me personally, pitching has been kind of more on the back end for me. Like I do try to do it regularly, but it is something that I don't do as much as I do attraction method wise. So like I do this thing called the attraction method. That's what I call it. I don't know about it. Other people call it that, but it's basically test shoots. So like I put together tons and tons and tons of test shoots all the time, which is basically just, a mock-up of what you would want to attract a client with. So like the kind of shoots you want to be hired for. That's what I try to put together myself. And I put it out there on the internet. I put it everywhere. And usually like almost every time I do something like that and I'm doing it consistently, I'm getting regular inquiries from brands. And
That's awesome.
The second I started doing that, like back in 2022, I started getting brand inquiries right away, which shocked me because I thought that I was going to have to go out and pitch a lot in the beginning. But in the beginning, it was kind of the opposite where I was posting a lot of brand stuff and then receiving a lot of traction on that. And so I noticed that early on and was like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing that as well and just see what kind of works better for me. And I have found that doing that works way better for me personally. I have, and also too, it helps a lot for me that I already had an audience prior to switching to brands. Like with wedding photography, I already built a big audience on Instagram, not big, but enough to where like people, like I had all sorts of different kinds of people following me already. And like some brand owners already following me already. And then once I announced that I was doing brands, then it just doubled even more on top of that with just that type of audience. So, so I feel like that has been huge. And I also I get scouted by people on Instagram, and that's like a wild thing that I never thought would happen. But like big companies have scouted me just through their personal, like their marketing managers or whoever's in that department on their personal accounts. Like they'll DM me on Instagram and be like, hey, I work for this company. We want to hire you, or we want to work with you. Like we'd love to chat.
That's amazing.
That's like wild. I'm like, you're coming to me in my DMs? Like that's so wild. Like I didn't expect that, especially from such like massive brands. So that is something where I was like, whoa, okay, like this is working. Me putting my work out into the world does help way more to me than it does pitching. And the other thing too is with pitching, like I have found that, I have to really figure out what brand is going to align with my work, because if I'm just pitching to like some random company that has like a style that I would dream of shooting, but I don't have anything that reflects that style, like why on earth would they hire me? So I have to really align myself with the brands I'm pitching to and be very intentional about like, okay. And then when I put a pitch together, I'm sending them my portfolio as well. I'm sending like a mini PDF of like, here's a quick look into my recent work. And I will curate it to their style so that they'll be like, oh, she's done stuff like this. Yeah, I actually really like that style. Like, let's hire her. So that's something that I've started doing a lot more now. And that has brought more traction. Like I'm getting responses from brands. But
that's great. So, when you say test shots, just to like drive it home for the listeners, is that basically like the brand version of a styled shoot? Like you're setting up something for free.
Yes.
On your own dime.
The term. And that's the other thing too, is like there's so much vocabulary I've had to learn in this new realm of photography that I didn't know before. So like that's what all the models, like professional models, will call it a test shoot. So, and that's usually what I do is I'll set it up with a professional model if I can. And I'll be like, hey, do you want to test? Like, I really want to test with you or something like that. And they'll be like, yeah, like let's set it up, and shoot. And so that was like kind of just some new vocabulary. I was like, okay, people call it that, I'll call it that. But for me in my mind, it's like, it's a style shoot. It's like your own personal style shoot.
Or even just like a creative, like a content building.
Shoot.
Yeah, content shoot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so I want to touch just a little bit on the attraction method, because that's where
Yes.
you found the most traction for yourself and where you clearly that's your zone of genius. So within the attraction method, when you are setting up test shoots, are you intentionally working with the actual brand products of the brand that you kind of have in your mind that you want to pitch to? Or are you working just in the same realm? It doesn't necessarily have to be the same brand that you're really trying to get in the inbox with. Does that make sense?
Yes, that totally makes sense. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So I have done this many, many times where I'll grab, products. And I've done this too where I've recently just done flat lays of products because I'm trying to get more into just products in general. So I've done a lot of fashion, but not as many products. And so grabbed, all the skincare I have in my bathroom and just took it to the beach and started doing flat lays with it. And getting creative. And they see it. I tag them and I post on my stories and just tag them. They see it, they repost it, and it's okay. They see me. They're seeing my work. Maybe they're taking note of me one day. You never know. They might jot down my name and be like, "Ooh, this girl's good." I'll have her on deck, in case I want to reach out to her sometime. You just never know. So that is, I feel something that I definitely do intentionally when I can, but I obviously don't want to go out and spend a bunch of money on tons of stuff that may not ever get me the job with that brand. But I will buy things intentionally for test shoots to attract a brand with a similar style. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that brand, but something similar to it. That's what I try to do, just so that I can, keep inching closer and closer to my goal client, my ideal client.
I love it. I love it. Okay, wait. Logistical question. When it comes the test shoots you're often doing with a professional model, when it comes to an actual paid shoot with a client, do you usually use professional paid models? Do you usually try to get someone not professional? Maybe it just depends on the brand's desires? What does that often look like?
Or does the brand choose the models? I have questions. Or is that your job?
You know what? It is different every time.
Okay, good to know.
Either they will. So a lot of times, brands will be like, "We're not local. We don't know anyone here." Or "We're sending you the product. We are not there. So, can you find models that you know?"
Right.
And I'll do that. And usually, I really try to make sure that my models are getting paid, just because then I know I'll be able to get better models. Because there are a lot of hobbyists out there, which is great. It's amazing. And I get a lot of DMs from people all the time who are like, "I want a model for anything you have in the future." And it's sometimes I just have to make sure that it's going to be someone who can do the job really well, because models are huge. They are a make it or break it. I really truly believe they make or break a shoot, and I try to be really intentional with that and who I choose for that and what the brand is also asking for, because I feel that definitely determines how well I'll be able to provide my services. And so so wait, sorry, backtracking to the question. You said what were we talking about?
Kind of, I guess it was you're answering it of, do you have professional models for every paid, shoot, or does it kind of vary? And it sounds like it just varies.
Yeah, it definitely varies for sure. And some brands will be like, "We really don't have, we would love to just do exchange for product." And I'll be like, "Okay, here," and I'll try to remind them too, if this is what you want, here are the expectations you should have, because if I end up having to find people who don't have a lot of experience in modeling professionally, then it may not turn out the way that you expect it to. And so I try to set that expectation for them so that they know it might not be, 1000% on the dot, but yeah, most of the time they're willing to pay models, which is nice. And sometimes they even choose them for me, and that takes a huge load off, because I definitely love not having to do that. So it's nice when I get to show up and they're already there.
I have a question that you kind of answered a little bit, but just asking it directly. Maybe, I don't know how you lay this out in your pricing guide. I'm assuming you have different package options, but so the client pays for you don't include the payment for the model in your package, or is it an add-on? Does that make sense?
So typically it ends up being, so transparency here. There's been many times where I've paid models out of my own paycheck because I know that it's worth it, and I need it for my portfolio as well. And I just do it because it's just, I just know that it's going to be better in the end for me and for them.
In that respect, I almost think you could include it in your package price, knowing that that's going to be an expense of yours.
Exactly. So lately what I've been doing is I put it as an add-on. So I'll do like model scouting, and I'll also put like facts on the top of my brochure and be like, can I hire, or will you pay the models for me and things like that. It'll be like, no, like you have to pay the models. It is not going to come from my paycheck. I am not going to compensate them for you. Like you need to be doing that. And so I have like structured it now to where it's like definitely laid out and very clear that like they need to handle that. But I'm happy to help at an extra cost, if they want me to handle all of the communication, all the scouting, all those things, then I can do that if they, pay for it.
I have a weird logistical question. If they're the ones that are paying your models and you're scouting them, are you just playing like middleman to like connecting their email to this company to be like, here's how you pay? Like, how does that logistically work? That's such a logistical question.
It truly can be so chaotic. So thankfully, a lot of the times, like it really is either or. I am handling everything or they are handling everything. So there's been times where like, if they're asking for help with finding models, I'll be like, here are people that I know. Yeah. Feel free to choose whichever. And then, I send them from there. They can contact them from there. Or like, it'll be like me completely handling everything and I'll just Venmo my models. Like I just Venmo them, and usually that's what they prefer anyways. So I just do that and then make sure that that's included in my price. And then, or I'm totally hands off with models and I just show up to the shoot and they have everybody already there. They pay them separately from me. I don't have any communication with models until I get there. Okay. It's usually one of those three scenarios. But more times than not, lately especially, it's been that they handle everything, which is great.
That's awesome. I have another logistical question. So at what part of this journey do like mood boards and like vision casting get exchanged? And are you the one that's coming up with the vision, or are they the one, or maybe sometimes both? Like, how does that process work to come to a shoot with like the stylistic idea?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
So I feel like most times brands will provide the mood board for me, and they'll usually provide that right off the bat, or they will do it, after we've already had a couple conversations about like, getting something on the calendar and scheduling and pricing and things like that. Then once we like kind of move past that, they'll be like, okay, here's the mood board. Or sometimes they'll just reach out and be like, hey, let me send you this mood board and see your thoughts or something. Yeah. And then we can chat more. So usually they always provide that, which is really great. And sometimes it's also shoots that are like more e-com, which is just, a blank white wall and just getting a really straight, plain shot of a product on somebody's body or something. Yeah. So that's something I just did in December with a brand. And they basically came and they had a whole shot list of basically every single photo that they wanted. So like every photo that they wanted was laid out for me, which was amazing because I was like, I'm not really sure what they want because they didn't give me a mood board. So I was like, I don't really know if I'm supposed to be like fully hands on with this creative side of like, for like composing the photo or like whatever. I don't know. Like, and so when I showed up, they had it already laid out because they had sent me the brief of it, but I was like, is this something I'm going off of? Or is this just like for checkboxing? And I don't know. So once I got there, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to literally recreate every single one of these. And it wasn't like a crazy long list, but it was like, oh great, like this is so easy because now I can just sit here and they're going to help me, frame the shot, get exactly what they want, which is great. I love when brands are like super hands-on. And there's been a couple of times now where I've like gone to a shoot and like they have someone creative directing and it takes such a load off of me, which is great because sometimes you really it's overwhelming to wear all the hats at the same time. Yeah. So most times, like if you're working with a bigger company, you will have like a creative director on set and they will be doing most of the creative shots and kind of guiding you and telling you like, okay, like let's try to get a shot like this. Let's try to get a shot like that. And honestly, it's great. Like I have no ego when it comes to that. I'm like, do it, please. Yeah. Like I will take the picture. I don't care, you know, because I know going into it, okay, like I'm going to be on a set with multiple people and like, I'm not like the only person that is, for framing these shots. So like, I'm okay with that. And I'm just here to do my job and I'm getting paid. So like, great. Like, I don't have any like conflicting feelings with that. Cause I know some people might be like, well, I want to have, like the creative freedom to frame the shots how I want it or whatever. But for me, it's like, it just depends on the job. Cause if someone's shipping me stuff and I'm just doing it all on my own out and shooting a campaign somewhere, then obviously like I'm going to have all the creative freedom to just go off of a mood board or something. But there's times where it's like that, where it's very structured. You just come in and you're mainly just the photographer and you're just shooting the shots that they need. And that's great.
Yeah. I'm like thinking of it as somebody who has, you know, a product brand with e-com shots for my site. And like with my swimsuit, it was like very much, I was like, I need a very detailed shot of the front, of the side, of the back, of the detailing of this. And it was like, it wasn't in my, and granted, me and like one of my best friends like shot it together, like switching modeling and photographer. So it was a lot easier. I wasn't like handing it to a photographer, but my intention with that, if I had worked with like you or, you know, somebody else, like a brand photographer that I'd hired, it was not that I don't trust the creative direction. It's that I know exactly what I need to be showcasing
on
with
like
my
a product listing.
Yeah, like on a product listing that my audience is going to be like, well, how does that fit? How does this look? What is the size of this? What, you know, and so it's like, as a brand photographer, I love that you're like, no, I don't have an ego with that. It's not like, this is all mine. It's like, no, you're literally hiring me to make sure I present your product the best. You know your product the best. You know, like I can give ideas, which I'm sure you do, Abby. No, like having worked with you, like your creative brain is magical. So like,
so sweet.
I'm sure you're like, oh, what if we tried this? And I'm sure they're probably like, oh my gosh, I love it. Do it. But also you're like, you know your product really well. So by all means, like, let me know if there's something you need or want.
Absolutely. And that's just e-com because like, e-com is literally just you show up, you're just getting like the details of each product and that's all it is. And then campaigns and lifestyle shoots and lifestyle campaigns are going to be where you're getting really creative. 100%. So there's like the two different sides of that. And that's pretty much,
I love that.
That's pretty much it for that. Yeah.
Okay, wait, can we go into the lifestyle campaigns, like that world, because that is where your creativity is really, really required. Can we talk a little bit about what that looks like? Like, what are some of your top tips? Because I think a lot of our listeners are wedding photographers, but a lot of our listeners are also senior and like brand, like portrait. So it's so different, at least in my experience. There's a lot of similarities, but it is very different
like
to
shooting
pose
with one person?
Yeah, one person versus a couple. So are you down? Because you're so good at this.
Or
and
even like people that aren't a couple, but there's multiple of them. Like a girl pack.
That was an interesting phrasing, but I know where you're at. A girl pack.
Like if you're doing a campaign, like a lifestyle campaign, you obviously answer the solo question first, but like I'm thinking like a group of like 4 girls.
Yeah, it's so different from like a couple who can hug and kiss.
Right, it's just a completely different style.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It can be, especially when I had to really like shake myself out of that mode of like portrait mode where it's like, okay, like usually my person has like, my model has another person with them, you know, or like they complement each other. And when you just have one person, it's like, okay, how am I gonna do this creatively and effectively? And usually what I try to do is just focus on the product and not on the person. So like that's the bigger thing too, going into brand photography from the portrait world. It's really hard to like shake yourself out of that and be like, I'm not taking portraits right now. I'm doing, you know, product photography, but this person is displaying the product. So I really just try to center it around that and like what's going to bring the vision to life too. Cause like locations, like where you shoot, what time of day you're shooting, like all those things play into like whatever the goal is for that shoot. And so I'll pretty much just try to, you know, do my best to like center it around those factors and really push myself to like see the product in new ways and not just like, okay, I have just this person standing here with this thing, like whether it's like a towel, a dress, a swimsuit. Like I just did a deodorant shoot recently and it was like deodorant and face balm and like soap. And they wanted just like really, really beachy vibes. So I was like, okay, so let's see what we can do to like get the atmosphere. Cause that's hard too with like jewelry, for example, getting the details, but also capturing the vibe and like the overall aesthetic that they're asking for can be very tricky. It's a very hard ask when you're having to zoom in and be so close to the product most of the time. So that's definitely a challenge, but I just try to remind myself and focus on the product and not like the person coming from the portrait world. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
I feel like it did. Coming from the portrait world specifically, do you have any gear that you use more for brand shoots than other stuff? Like I'm thinking like a macro lens or anything to get like those detail shots or anything else that you have?
I have found that my 24-70 is tried and true. I mean, I used to shoot only on 35 millimeter with weddings, with all that stuff, like for a long time. I was just a 35 millimeter girl. And then I switched to 24-70 last year, I think like the beginning of last year. And oh my gosh, game changer. Like I never take it off. Like unless I'm in a very low light situation, I use that for pretty much everything. And it does amazing. Like it really does really well with the details and with just anything else that I'm doing far away. So
yeah.
In terms of lenses, that's what I do. But other equipment, I would say like I have more like flat lay stuff now because I'm starting to do more flat lays for brands. But things just like, I have like a diffuser now. Like I would never have used that with portraits, but like I have little things like that where I'm like, okay, like maybe even some more lighting and things like that so I can stage things is really helpful. And now I have like a wagon. I got myself a wagon. It's a beach wagon. And I just dump all my stuff in there sometimes because with models, like they'll have to bring like multiple outfits sometimes and they've got lots of stuff and I've got lots of stuff and we got props, we got all the things. So we just shove it in the wagon and then roll it around because that's like honestly one of the things I probably use the most now that I wouldn't have used before. So
I love it so much.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. Okay, I have a follow-up question kind of in the realm of I mean, it could work for pitching, but I think it could also work for the attraction method, like you said earlier. What is your advice on some of the best ways to get noticed by brands in the brand photography space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I feel like there are a couple of things I would say that are like really big key points that I would definitely like jot down. The first one would be keep putting your creative work out into the world. So like I've already talked about, I'm always pumping stuff out there on Instagram. I try to put it on TikTok too when I can, and Pinterest too. I utilize Pinterest as much as I can. And my website, I'll create blogs as well. But that I think is one of the biggest ways that I have been able to get noticed by brands because I'm also when I'm doing that, I'm also utilizing hashtags. And I can't tell you how many times I've had like people who are working with brands be like, oh yeah, I found you on a hashtag. And I'm like,
dang,
that's amazing.
That does still work.
Love it. People try to say they're dead.
I know, people are always saying that. And I'm like, no, seriously, like so many people find me that way. And I'm like, okay, like I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'll hashtag things, like San Diego photographer. And usually people say they find me on that hashtag, just San Diego photographer or San Diego brand photographer. Like I just try to get as specific as I can, but sometimes those really broad ones really they work. So I don't know.
That's awesome.
Wild. Weird stuff. But yeah, so hashtags, putting your stuff out there. I also promote a lot of my posts in like little mini ads. So that I have found has helped me a lot. And what I do is, especially for like these test shoots that I talk about, if it's like one of my favorites, and I'm like posting, I'm so excited to share it, and I see that it's performing well, I will promote it for like a week. I'll do like 6 days for $30 on Instagram. And I've created my own audiences on Instagram in Instagram ads. So I'll do like, whether it's photographers, I have a whole photographer ad specific one. And I have also a whole thing that's specific to like brands or like people who are interested in certain types of things. So like, it's like people, because you can put their interests in like the ads. You can like, when you're customizing your audience, you can select what they're interested in. And I just put in like, fashion, beach lifestyle, little things like that. Anything that's related to a brand that maybe I'll even put in like names of brands and stuff like that, and the locations of people who would probably be in those types of places that are interested in those things. And that truly, I feel like has helped so much, especially with the people who do reach out to me in my DMs that are big, people in the marketing side for a big brand. I feel like they often find me through those ads, and they'll find my profile and be like, oh my gosh, this girl, her work is so cool. Or like really awesome models will even find me that way, and they'll DM me and be like, hey, like I'd love to shoot with you. And so that I feel like has been a huge key factor, and just paying attention to how my stuff is performing on Instagram and then utilizing that to continue to draw in as many more potential clients as I can. That has helped me a lot. And then, I just try to not give up on chasing after my dream clients, there are people who I've talked to in this industry who will pitch themselves to a brand they really want to work with. And sometimes it takes up to 2 years to get them to say yes. And sometimes it's worth it. Like if it's a brand you really want to work for, never stop pitching to them. There are a lot of times where people are just not paying attention to their emails, or they see your email, they don't have time to respond. They have very busy jobs, and you're not their number one priority. Like, I hate to say it, but like, they'll see your email and be like, cool, get them all the time, And like, what makes them stand out is going to play a key factor in that as well. Like, what makes your email stand out compared to like other people's. And we can talk about that too if you guys want to. But I think that is a huge thing too, is like, just don't give up. You just have to keep pressing, keep pushing, keep asking. And like, even send like updates. Send like, if you have a contact for someone at a brand, just be like, hey, just wanted to send you an update on my portfolio. Here's my latest work.
That's
would love
so
to
good.
work with you in the future. That is something that like, if you want to do this, you have to want it. Like, you have to want to do this to do this. Like, it's so important to be able to just have the motivation and the commitment to not give up on yourself as well, because that is a big part of it. Like, you're just going to get no after no after no when you're pitching, and that can be really defeating and very discouraging. But just don't give up. You just can't give up. It really truly is just the name of the game, and it's not personal. It's really not.
Thank you for saying that. I think we often forget, whether it's pitching for brand photography or pitching for anything, if anybody else is listening to this and they're not a brand photographer, or they're just, I think we attach a no or a not response, or a lack of response to our identity. And we often like, we just get way too freaking personal and emotional about crap that does not need to be. Like, people
really
literally just didn't see it. They're busy. Like, you got to remind people multiple times.
It's not the time, not the season. That's not a personal reflection.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, get over yourself.
Yeah, my friend who said that it took her like 2 years to get a brand gig with this one brand, she like reached out to them regularly for like 2 years, like every quarter, or something like that. And eventually she was like, hey, I'm going to this country, do you want to shoot? Do you want to, pay me to shoot? And they're like, actually, we finally have an opening where like, we do need this right now. We do need some content shot. Yeah, we'll send you some stuff and pay you. So you just never know when it's going to be the right time. Eventually you will hit them at the right time. And that's a big part of it too, is timing.
Do you have any tips? You mentioned it a little bit. Any nuggets of wisdom for what to include in a pitch email, specifically for brand photography?
Yeah. So I feel like things that I've noticed that have worked well for me over the last 2 years of like trying it, and, lots of trial and error of trying to figure out what emails get noticed, which ones get responses, all that good stuff. I've noticed, the shorter, the better. The more you get straight to the point, the better. The more that you talk about what you can do for them and not about you and whatever you want to say about yourself, like, the better. They don't want to know about your life story. They don't want to know, like, how much you love they do want to know if you love the brand, but like, keep it short and sweet. Like, get to the point and be like, hey, this is what I do. This is where I'm based. I want to work with you. I think I love that your brand is about this, like, do some research on the brand, look at their, about page, and, talk about that, talk about what you love about what they're about, and then just be like, this is what I can do for you. I think I would be a great fit, for working with you, and I can provide these types of services. And then be like, if you want to check out my portfolio, here's my website, here's my Instagram, here's a little PDF of my latest work. And then boom, look forward to hearing from you. Something like that, like, short and sweet, straight to the point.
Okay, that was, everybody listening, that's the exact formula for any pitch.
Pretty much.
Like,
it really is, honestly.
Don't waste people's time.
Yeah.
Don't go into your cat from the age 5 that you love and that
you took a photo of that then inspired your photography journey.
No. Like, get to the freaking point, and also do your research, and like, not grovel, but like fluff my ego a bit, like just a little bit, not too much though, but just a little.
Like, be straight of like, why do you want to work with that brand? Why, or that person?
When we get pitches for the podcast and they say, I've listened, they specifically say an episode, and then they say I've left a review. I'm like, oh, you're on the show. Done.
Well, okay, not guaranteed, because I don't want people to go pitch, pitch themselves.
You still have to be an expert. You still have to present something, an expert in the sense of like, you have something interesting to add to the show that's not a repeat.
Yes. I was like imagining, like, we get like dozens of pitches of people who say like, I have listened, I liked this episode, I've left a review, and then they're just anticipating like 100% being on the show.
Do these 2 things and you'll be on the show.
I love it. I want to throw in there, Abby, with what you're talking about, which I don't know how this is with like brand photography, but as we're on the topic of pitching, it just popped into my mind. I was like, I'm going to say this. I personally find consistency in reaching out absolutely is huge, but personally,
not
when I get pitched something And then
like not hounding.
Yep. And then they start like being like, what? Hey, I haven't gotten a response from you.
No,
like,
okay,
hey,
listen. When I get a pitch email on a Friday afternoon, and then Monday morning at 7 a.m., they're like, hi, I haven't heard from you. And I'm like,
yep.
No. Like, I'm like, give me a dang 24 hours. At least I am a mother.
Well, I also feel like
weekends. Hello.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
But I feel like I also will get pitch emails that they will wait like 3 or 4 days, like business days.
Oh, but then there's like 5 follow-ups.
But then they keep following up and I'm not responding to them. I used to be very consistent. Like the first email I would say no to. But now I'm at the point where I just like, if it's something like if they're pitching copywriting to me or like I start deleting it and they keep coming. And it's like day after day after day. Personally.
Wait, what kind of pitches are this? Is this just for the podcast or
no, it's usually like somebody like
collabs.
Yeah. Or like somebody like
it's like scammy and it's like, I could help your coaching business.
Yeah.
Here's a video
like
that I filmed.
A day.
Yeah. I filmed of your website.
But there's also
look, you were missing this pixel code and I could fix it.
Yeah.
Your SEO is not performing very well.
Yes.
But I can make it better.
I feel like there's definitely like spammy ones, but there's also some that I can tell it's like a legit person who probably has like a good service or business.
Right.
I'm not in the place where I'm like, I either have somebody or I'm not interested in like doing whatever they're pitching. And so I won't respond because I get, like you, I get like so many emails. Yes. And what I've noticed is if somebody follows up too consistently, too much in a row, they are instantly on my never list. And I don't know if everyone's the same way. Like, I don't know if these big brands are the same way.
What would be like a good follow-up, but not too much for you?
To me, don't follow. If I don't respond to your first email, give it at least a couple of months before you respond again. Like, I'm not even...
Oh, really?
Wow.
Personally, like maybe a week or so later, one follow-up. Maybe. But like,
I feel like that's aggressive. I mean, like, I feel like every single person
Abbey pitching herself to a brand, if they don't respond to her, I would think, like, I love that your friend followed up, like, maybe once a quarter for a couple of years, not, like, obnoxiously, just being like, hey,
there's definitely a huge
still
difference.
Here. Like, here's an update.
That's a good clarifying thing. Because, I definitely personally don't bug people like that 24/7.
Right.
Nor do I have the time or energy to. I don't want to. So
what if they genuinely missed your first email?
Exactly, which is why I would follow up. If you don't hear back from them within like a week or two, then I would follow up once and be like, hey, just wanted to see if you saw my email.
Yeah, and then after that, if they didn't respond.
And then if they don't respond after that, then just let it go and then maybe reach out the next quarter.
Yes. Yeah. Because if somebody sends me like one follow-up, like a week later, I'm like, okay, they're following up. It's once you follow up too quickly, like within a few days.
And then multiple times.
Or you have like a 4 to 5 email like follow-up and they're progressively getting more like, this is your last chance to like work with me, like before my calendar fills up.
Block if that exists on an email.
I know it's like there's a whole marketing strategy behind it, but personally that goes on my never list and I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. So when it comes to brands, but also just pitching in general, I love that idea of like, hey, one follow-up within like a week or 2 time frame, and then you just like consistently and gently and like kindly being like, hey, I would love to serve you. Or like, here's an update to my portfolio. Because you don't even have to
say like, I want to work with you. You can literally just say, hey, just wanted to send you my updated portfolio. Just wanted to send you my most recent work. That's all they need sometimes to get like an update from you. Like you don't even have to be like, hey, I still really want to work with you. Please hire me. It can just be like, hey, here's my recent update or recent, portfolio. Just want you to check it out.
Yep.
I will say, hey, like your friend. Oh, sorry.
Like your friend being like, hey, I'm headed to this country. Like if you need any, like that is fantastic because it's like, hey, I'm here if you need me. But it's not like, please. Oh my gosh, like
respond to me. Why haven't you responded to me? I will say though, when I get pitch emails,
right there with you.
When I get pitch emails that are ambiguous of what they want, like they're not asking, it's like, hi, here's a little bit about me. I'd love to
connect.
It's not even saying like, I would love to work together. It's like,
I would love to connect.
It's like, obviously that's what they want.
Yes.
But it's almost like a pitch email version of not asking for the sale.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a wishy-washy, like
be direct. Get like you're saying.
I can't tell you how many times I get DMs like that from virtual assistants. It's like the VA.
Yeah.
I don't know what I genuinely have been wanting to talk about this for so long, but like I don't offend VAs because they're great. Like they're needed. But like
Yeah.
the strategies that they use that has somehow become common knowledge for all of them to
Yeah.
cold pitch and like aggressively like comment on all your posts and then
Yeah.
pitch in your email, and they like, just followed you that day. They're like, I
Yep.
love your work. Please hire me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know who you
Yeah.
are. Like the virtual assistants that I would hire are the ones that follow me and support my business long term before they ever even send a pitch to me. And
Yeah.
like there is one person that I would hire if I actually did that, and she's
Yep.
this one VA that is amazing, and I would hire her because of the way that she's gone about that. But yeah,
Yep.
no, I get those like aggressive
Yeah.
like pitches all the time.
Yeah. I think that's so good to
Nice.
note, like with pitching, it's like, hey, keep it short, sweet, recognize, especially if you're pitching to like a bigger brand or like a bigger company or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they have a lot of stuff in like flooding their inbox. They have a lot of opportunities. They probably already have team or resources or connections or whatever. So it's like, hey, send a really quick, short, direct, like, here's how I want to help you. Here's what I like about your brand. Here's, maybe what makes me a little bit different in my approach to my photography. Here's my portfolio. Have a good day.
Yeah.
And then like, one follow-up like a week or two later, and then leave them alone for a few months.
Leave them alone.
I love that. I love that so much.
All right, Abby, you have been an absolute joy on this show. We have a couple final questions for you.
Yes.
Are you a reader at all?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Okay. We have a selfish question because we like just like asking our awesome people that we get to talk with on this podcast their books. So do you have a favorite recent read that you've loved?
Yes, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm almost done with it. I am obsessed with Everybody Always right now by Bob Goff.
Yeah.
That's a book that I've been working through, and I love it. But
He's incredible.
There is this other book. Okay, I think it's called crap. It's like something. It's like I think it's called Art and Fear. And it is an amazing book for any artist that is like struggles with, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, anything like that, where you just feel like giving up. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. And I'm pretty sure it's called Art and Fear.
Is it The War of Art? Or the
No.
Okay, it's different than that.
It has fear in the title. I have the book somewhere. And I'm trying
We
to
got
remember where
this.
I put it.
Well, regardless, we'll put the links in the show notes. We'll find it.
Okay, great.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. Okay, next question while Lindsay looks for that book. What is one of the biggest lessons that you have learned in business? And if you want it to be brand specific, like brand photographer specific, it can be, but it can also just be business in general.
Is this the cover of Art and Fear?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so it's Art and Fear by David Bales and Ted Orland.
Okay.
Yes, I also haven't finished that book. I am the worst, you guys. I open books and I just take forever to finish them.
That's okay.
But I have started that book and oh my gosh, it is so good. Like
That's
first page
amazing.
alone, I was like, yeah, this is amazing.
Love it.
But yeah, to answer your question, the biggest lessons that I've learned in business, I feel like there's a couple of things. So one, I would say that you just have to do it scared. Like no matter what you do, you're going to be scared and you just got to do it.
That's so good.
That's something I personally have had to work through because there's so many things where I'm like, I have this idea, I have this thing I want to do. Like right now, I'm literally hosting an event in March and it's for photographers and it's very exciting. But like for the longest time, it took me forever to just put it into the world and like do it and plan it and say yes to it. And I really do believe that you just have to do it scared and just get yourself to push past those, fears and boundaries that you don't want to break. And I think that's where you really see yourself excel and you surprise yourself when you push past that.
Good.
So that's one thing I would say about business. Yeah. The other thing I would say is your competitors will also become your biggest asset. And that I feel like is something, like your competitors are your friends. They really should be. And I truly believe that like that is something that can help you excel so much in this industry because your competitors can be someone who gets you your biggest job. Like last year for me, I made a connection with a photographer. She's super sweet and she's doing brand stuff too. And she got this huge brand that reached out to her, and was like, hey, can you shoot this? She was like, no, I'm not available, but let me send you my friend that I just made. And she sent me over to them and they hired me. And that's the biggest job I've ever done. And that is so incredible. So don't ever view someone that is like, someone you look up to maybe, or maybe someone you wish your style looked like them or something. Like if they're your competitor, they can also be your friend and your biggest asset to your career. Which I'm not saying that in the sense of like, oh, you should use people like for your gain. I'm just saying like those people who may be your competitor can also be someone that you can lean on, and
Yes.
you can also, help them
Bless,
excel.
support,
You can
yeah.
push them into success. We can all push each other into success. And I
That's
think
so
that
good.
is so huge with this
Yeah.
because referrals in the brand industry is everything. If you can get a
Yeah.
referral, like that is usually one of the best ways to get a job. So how you treat people is huge. You
Yep.
have to, build a
Yes.
good reputation for yourself and have integrity. And especially when you're on set, like that can also, send you into like amazing jobs. If you can,
Yeah.
treat people really well on a set and go above and beyond to be maybe the one person that's shining really brightly and
Mhm.
in a room full of people who are, maybe grumbling, like you never
Yeah.
know. And that can stand out hugely to other people who there may be like a stylist, there may be a makeup artist, there may be a model who's like that person, like I want to work with them again because that experience
Yep.
was so good. Like just who you are as a person and how you treat people is also just going to change your business entirely.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about that.
so
Oh my
good.
gosh. That was like a fire, like mic drop, power punch.
Oh.
So good. So good, Abby.
Abby, you have been an entire, just complete joy
Yeah.
to talk to
Aw.
today. I know our listeners got so much out of it. If they want to follow up with you, go follow you, see your incredible work, hang out, just talk to you at all, hire you eventually, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Abbey Jo Photos. So ABBEYJO Photos.
Yes.
Because there are a million ways to spell Abby.
Yep. And you might end up following the wrong one, but it turns into it'll turn into a beautiful relationship.
Full circle. We started and ended. That's perfect.
I love it, Abby.
So
Thanks for being here today and sharing your wisdom and expertise. It was such a joy to connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are the best.